You have data everywhere, but is it working together? Meet Curator, the automotive industry's first unified intelligence engine. Curator unifies data from all corners of your dealership to transform marketing, sales, and customer interactions. See it today at gubagoo.com.
Hey, it's Jake Neer here in Metro Detroit. On today's bonus episode of Daily Drive, we'll hear one auto executive's reaction to attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, and whether her company plans to continue their programs. That's coming up in a bit, but first, Jamie is in Indianapolis this weekend for the Indy 500 race, but he's also there to see Honda's Indiana auto plant, which recently got some good news amid tariffs. He spoke with Roxanna Metz, who leads the plant.
Roxanna Metz, welcome to Daily Drive.
Well, thank you for having me.
So glad to have you here. Of course, we're at the Indiana auto plant, which you lead. Last month, a Honda spokesperson in Japan said that Civic Hybrid production would move to Indiana from Japan. And I just want to make sure I'm understanding this news correctly. I mean, you already make Civic Hybrid sedans, right?
Yeah.
Or not exactly.
Yeah, so we did make Civic Hybrid sedans earlier in the year, and then that transferred to one of our plants in Japan. And the announcement was that we would start building it again in September of this year.
Gotcha. So is that the 26 model year?
Correct.
Okay. Will you be the sole source then for Civic Hybrids? Will you make right-hand drives that go back to Japan?
No, we won't. We will be the sole source of the Civic hatchback hybrid for the United States.
Gotcha.
Or for North America.
Are you adding any staff because of the Civic Hybrid, or does it not really change the overall picture?
It doesn't change the overall picture. At Indiana Auto Plant, we're very complex in what we build. So we build the CRV gasoline and hybrid, and we build the Civic hatchback gasoline and hybrid. So with bringing that back, we didn't reduce manpower when it went to Japan, so we won't be adding more manpower back.
Today on the plant tour, we saw almost exclusively CRVs. I would almost say we saw all gray ones, although I saw a few white ones. Is that an important element of running the plant efficiently, to making a bunch of one type of vehicle instead of adjusting, having the workers having to adjust car by car, whether it's a sedan or a crossover or a hybrid or not?
It helps the flow. We build in lots of 30. And so as you were out there today, probably what you saw were a couple or, maybe 3 different lots of the gray CRV. But we do try to build them somewhat together. So, for example, we would build the CRV hybrids together. Mm-hmm. And the reason we do that is it eliminates some of the changeovers we would have, like in our weld or paint departments.
Mm. So it sounds like the most recent development here has been the addition of the Trail Sport version of the CRV hybrid. Does that add much complexity?
It doesn't add a lot of complexity. It's really trim, and our associates are so used to changing every day, as you saw out there. So the Trail Sport, that sportier new look, is more of a trim, so that would affect some of our assembly processes. Mm-hmm.
But it's nothing mechanical. It's really just the seats and some of the elements. The tires are new, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. Correct.
So you get your engines and transmissions, really the most expensive components come from Ohio, just right across the state line. How much of your content generally is domestically sourced, and do you feel like your product is well protected from tariffs?
So we're about 75%, which is USMCA compliant. Mm-hmm. So, most of our supply base is local, that 75% local. So, we are confident in our ability from a tariff standpoint to minimize the impact of that. Mm-hmm.
Stay competitive.
Correct.
Yeah. So you've got about 2,700 associates here. We're kind of midway between Indianapolis and Cincinnati. I mean, where do your workers come from?
The biggest percentage of our workforce comes from right here in the county that we are part of, Decatur County. However, I usually think of it as about a 60-mile radius around the plant. Actually, Marion County, which is Indianapolis, is our second highest. So it's about a 50-minute drive from Indianapolis, but we're really bringing in a variety of associates from all over the state of Indiana, southeastern Indiana.
Mm-hmm. This has got to be among the better jobs in the area.
Yeah, that is correct. Cummins is Columbus, Indiana, which is about 25 minutes away. But Columbus itself is a pretty big city. So a lot of their workforce is within that city.
Are there a lot of women that work here in the factory?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that percentage is, but we do have a high percentage of women that is part of our workforce.
I ask in part because you were recently honored as one of Automotive News' 100 leading women in the North American auto industry. Congratulations for that.
Well, thank you.
Do you, in a place like a manufacturing environment, do you feel like your gender has ever been a hindrance in your career?
I've been asked that question before, and I don't. Being part of actually auto manufacturing for over 30 years, I've always just been myself, been true to myself. And so if I ever walked into a meeting and I was the only female there, I honestly never noticed it. And I always just felt, I never felt like somebody was holding my hands behind my back and not able to speak because I was a female. I've always just had that confidence in being able to be part of the team and provide ideas. And I think the auto manufacturing has always been very open to inclusive ideas.
So before I let you go, of course, we're here in Indiana. The 500-mile race is coming up. I'm wondering, what does Honda Racing and the Indy 500 mean to the associates and the community here?
So the Indianapolis 500, I've lived in southeastern Indiana my entire life. And so I've always known about the Indianapolis 500. I can remember my parents listening on a radio to the Indianapolis 500. And then when I met my husband, I went to my first race. And it is part of who Hoosiers is the Indianapolis 500. It is a big part of who we are. We have that racing spirit, and there are so many family traditions that revolve around Memorial Day and the Indianapolis 500. And when Honda announced that they were going to build a plant 60 miles away from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, I thought to myself, how perfect is that, right? Honda's a big part of the Indianapolis 500, and to have an assembly plant so close that builds a really good quality cars makes it just that much better.
Roxanna Metz, Vice President of Plant Operations at Honda's Indiana Auto Plant. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up, we'll hear how one automotive supplier is reacting to pushback against DEI efforts. That's next on this bonus episode of Daily Drive.
Your dealership has no shortage of customer information. But when that data is conflicting, messy, and spread across a multitude of platforms, it's impossible to activate properly. As the automotive industry's first unified intelligence engine, Curator enriches and unifies your customer data across platforms, like your CRM, your DMS, your website, and even your marketing efforts. It then injects that information back into your most vital systems to provide a single view of each customer and equip your sales team with the information they need to close a deal. When one of the largest volume Subaru dealers in the country wanted to tap into its data goldmine, they turned to Curator. In just 4 months, Huberger Subaru experienced a 55% higher closing ratio and a return of 15 times their investment. Want to see it for yourself? Check out the case study at goobagoo.com/curator. That's GUBAGOO.com/curator.
Welcome back. This week, Automotive News held our 100 Leading Women Gala, honoring the women who are driving forward the North American auto industry, and we followed that up with our annual Leading Women Conference in Dearborn, Michigan. And during a panel discussion on well-being and women's health in the industry, our own Lindsay Van Hully asked the panelists about their thoughts on diversity, equity, and inclusion as the Trump administration pushes back against those efforts. We wanted to bring you this answer from Lear Corporation Chief Strategy Officer Alicia Davis.
So a lot of what we're talking about today is looking at policies that really support women in the workplace and create more inclusive workplaces. You know, the time we're in right now, there's been a lot of scaling back of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. And I'm wondering if you have any kind of insight or guidance maybe for the audience about how you pursue those policies and the importance of those policies in a time where that's become a little bit more challenging.
I can start. This is difficult for me. Very, very difficult. DEI has become a slur. You're a DEI hire. It has somehow come to mean less qualified, not merit-based. I'm not sure where it went wrong. People who don't really understand the purpose have, weaponized the term and turned it into something, in my view, that it was never intended to be. And I'm not sure how that all started, but we're here now. At my company, at Lear, we're still committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have been committed to those concepts before the expression DEI was even coined. And we find it hard to believe that someone doesn't think that having a diverse workplace or having inclusive practices or wanting to ensure equity, whether it's in opportunity or in pay or in the ability to simply function within the organization, have been perceived as negative things. We're continuing with the activities we had before the current backlash against DEI, and it's important to us. I think as we think about going forward, sort of education and really listening, what is it about DEI that people really find objectionable, and trying to sort of dispel some of those myths about what they think's going on that actually is not going on. And the way I talk to people about this often is, I think that for sure there is a history of underrepresentation, of outright discrimination against lots of groups, full stop. And we as a society, as a moral imperative, ought to want to do something about that. But even if you don't care about the morality, you don't care about past practice, about inequity, as a business person, you ought to think about what's best for your business. And there are tons of studies that show significant correlations between diverse and inclusive workplaces and business performance. We're in a war for talent right now, all across the globe. We're always fighting to get an edge, and it starts with your people. And I can't imagine why any business person would want to put themselves at a competitive disadvantage by not taking advantage of the workplace that's available fully. So even if you don't care about the moral imperative, it's a business imperative. And I think the way we talk about it, the more we enlist allies who are not in the protected classes or who don't typically benefit from these programs, and there's a wide spectrum of people that actually benefit, of all backgrounds, having those conversations, I think, can be really impactful.
That was Alicia Davis, Chief Strategy Officer for Lear Corporation. We'd love to hear your thoughts on DEI efforts in the auto industry. Email us at dailydrive@autonews.com or leave us a voicemail message at 313-444-2774. Thanks for listening to this bonus episode of Daily Drive. We're off on Monday for the Memorial Day holiday here in the U.S. Come back on Tuesday for a brand new full episode of the show.